Before you judge me for what I did, let me tell you how I ended up with $2 million and no daughter. My name is Eleanor Brooks. I'm 68 years old, and 6 months ago, my only child tried to erase me from existence. She almost succeeded. It started on my birthday, October 15th. The morning light came through my bedroom window in Pine Hollow, Vermont, the same way it had for 43 years. I lay there for a moment, listening to the silence of the house, that particular quiet that comes when you've lived alone for 3 years since your husband died. But today wasn't supposed to be lonely. Today, Marissa was taking me to lunch. I pulled myself out of bed, my joints protesting the way they always did these days, and made my way to the kitchen. I'd laid out my good blue dress the night before, the one with the pearl buttons that Richard always said brought out my eyes. I wanted to look nice for my daughter. I wanted her to see that I was still here, still present, still her mother. The kitchen smelled like coffee and cinnamon as I prepared breakfast. 2 plates. 2 cups. Force of habit, maybe, or hope. I checked my phone. 7:30. No messages. Marissa said she'd pick me up at 11 for an early lunch at that Italian place downtown, the one with the checkered tablecloths and the owner who always remembered my name. I ate slowly, watching the clock. 8 o'clock came and went. Then 9. I washed the dishes twice, reorganized the spice cabinet, watered plants that didn't need watering. At 10:15, I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Hi, honey, just confirming we're still on for lunch. Love you. My voice sounded too bright, too eager, even to my own ears. 10:30. 10:45. I stood by the window, my purse already on my shoulder, watching every car that turned down our street. 11 came and went like a stone dropping into still water. By 11:30, I'd convinced myself something terrible had happened. An accident. A crisis at work. Marissa was a financial consultant, always busy, always stressed. I called again, and again. Each time, that same cheerful automated voice telling me the subscriber wasn't available. At 12:15, I sat down at the kitchen table and allowed myself to feel what I'd been pushing away all morning. Not worry, not fear. Something worse. The feeling that I'd been forgotten. That's when I heard the car in the driveway. I was at the door before the engine cut off, my face already arranging itself into understanding, into forgiveness. Marissa stepped out, and my heart did what it always did when I saw her, that little skip of love and pride. She looked beautiful in her tailored black pantsuit, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. But there was something off about her smile. Too wide. Too practiced.
Mom.
Happy birthday. She kissed my cheek, but her lips barely grazed my skin. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was insane. That's okay, sweetheart. I was just... You look nice. Ready to go. I nodded, locking the door behind me. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't name it. Maybe it was the way she walked 3 steps ahead of me to the car, or the way she checked her phone twice before we even pulled out of the driveway, or maybe it was just that feeling you get when someone you love is lying to you, and you're pretending not to notice. So, the Italian place? I asked as she turned left instead of right at the end of our street. Actually, I thought we'd try somewhere new.
À surprise.
Oh, that's nice. I settled back in my seat, trying to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. How's work been? You sounded stressed last time we talked. Work's fine, Mom. Everything's fine. But her hands were too tight on the steering wheel, and she wouldn't look at me when she spoke. We drove in silence through downtown, past the familiar shops and restaurants, past the Italian place with its red awning, past everything familiar, into the outskirts where the trees grew thick and the houses spread far apart. Where are we going exactly? I try to keep my voice light. It's a surprise, I told you. 20 minutes later, we turned onto a long driveway flanked by manicured lawns and young maple trees. At the end stood a sprawling brick building with white columns and a sign that made my blood run cold. Silver Meadows Assisted Residence. Marissa, what is this? Mom, don't freak out. Just hear me. This is a nursing home. It's an assisted living facility. There's a difference. And we're just here for a tour, okay? just to look around. But she was already turning off the engine, already opening her door. My hands started shaking. I don't want a tour. I want to go home. Mom, please. You've been forgetting things. Last week you called me at midnight thinking it was noon. 2 weeks ago you left the stove on. Mrs. Patterson next door called me, worried sick. I was making tea. I turned it off. 4 hours later, Mom. 4 hours. Had it been 4 hours? I couldn't remember. There were gaps sometimes, little blank spaces in my day that I couldn't quite account for. But that was normal at my age, wasn't it? Everyone forgot things sometimes. I don't need this, I said, but my voice came out smaller than I intended. Marissa was already walking toward the entrance. I sat in the car for a long moment, my heart hammering against my ribs, before I followed her inside. What choice did I have? The lobby was nice, I'll give them that. Warm lighting, soft music, fresh flowers on the reception desk. A woman in a navy blazer greeted us like we were checking into a hotel. You must be Mrs. Brooks. We've been expecting you. Expecting me? I looked at Marissa, but she was already signing papers at the desk, her pen moving fast across the forms. Too fast. Like she'd practiced this. I'd like to see your room, the woman said, and something in my chest went tight. Your room. Not a room. Your room. Marissa, what's happening? Mom, it's going to be okay. Just come see. It's really nice, I promise. I followed them down a carpeted hallway that smelled like pine-scented cleaning solution and something else, something I couldn't name. Resignation, maybe.
Loss.
We stopped at room 214, and the woman pushed open the door with a flourish. It was small. Beige walls, industrial carpet, a twin bed with a floral comforter that looked like it came from a hotel liquidation sale. A narrow window looked out onto a brick wall, so close you could touch it. My entire life, reduced to 200 square feet and a view of nothing. Where are my things? My voice barely came out as a whisper. In the car, Marissa said quietly. I packed this morning. The world tilted sideways. You packed my things. You packed my things without telling me. Mom, you're not thinking clearly. You need help. I need my daughter. The words exploded out of me, raw and desperate. I need my daughter to not ambush me on my birthday. I need my daughter to not lie to me about lunch and drive me to a place where old people go to die. That's not what this is. Then what is it, Marissa? Tell me what this is. She couldn't look at me. That's what broke my heart more than anything, the way her eyes slid away from mine. It's temporary. Just until we figure things out. Until you're doing better. I was doing fine until 20 minutes ago. The woman in the blazer cleared her throat. Why don't I give you two a moment? She disappeared down the hallway, her heels clicking against the linoleum. Marissa pulled more papers from her bag. I need you to sign these. What are they? Admission forms. Medical power of attorney. Standard stuff. Medical power of attorney? I grabbed the papers, but the words swam in front of my eyes. You want control over my medical decisions? For emergencies, Mom. Just in case. In case of what? In case I want to leave and you want to keep me here? That's not. She pressed her lips together. Please, Mom.
Just sign.
You're making this harder than it needs to be. And there it was. I was making this hard. I was the problem. I stared at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, whose fevers I'd sat through and whose heartbreaks I'd mended and whose college tuition I'd worked overtime to pay, and I didn't recognize her. My hand shook as I signed. What else could I do? She had my purse, my keys, my phone. She had everything. Thank you, she whispered. She kissed my forehead, quick and guilty. I'll visit soon. I promise. Marissa, wait. But she was already halfway down the hallway. She didn't look back. Not once. I stood in that doorway until the sound of her car faded completely, until the building settled into its afternoon quiet, until a nurse came and gently guided me inside my new room and closed the door behind us. The first 3 days were the worst. They took my phone, said I'd get it back during supervised visiting hours. They had my medications, my glasses, my everything. I tried calling from the phone at the nurse's station, but Marissa didn't answer. I tried reaching Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor, but they said outgoing calls needed approval. Approval from whom? From the daughter who'd left me here? I met my roommate on day 2. Gladys was 84, with white hair like dandelion fluff and eyes that had given up hoping for anything. Her family had dropped her here 7 years ago and never returned. 7 years. She told me this like she was commenting on the weather, like it was just a fact of life now, this abandonment. "You seem sharp," she said, studying me over her crossword puzzle. "Sharper than most who come here. Why'd they stick you in here?" "My daughter thinks I'm losing my mind." "Are you?" "I don't think so. But would I know if I was?" Gladys laughed, a dry sound like rustling paper. "That's the question, isn't it?" "That's always the question." The days blurred together. Breakfast at 7:30. Group activities I didn't participate in. Lunch at noon. More activities. Dinner at 5. Lights out at 9. My life had become a schedule printed on cheap paper and taped to my wall. If you hit the subscribe button right now, you'll catch every twist in this story, and trust me, you won't believe what happens next. The night nurse came on duty during my second week. Her name was Naomi, and unlike the day staff who spoke to us like children, she talked to me like I was a human being. She was younger, maybe 40, with kind eyes and a Caribbean accent that softened her words. "You don't belong here," she said one night, checking my blood pressure. "Tell that to my daughter." "I'm serious. I've been doing this 15 years. I can tell the difference between someone who needs care and someone who's been parked here for convenience." Convenience. The word tasted bitter. Is that what I am? That's what you should find out. She glanced at the door, lowered her voice. "There was a resident here, Mr. Chen. Died 3 weeks ago. Had no family, no one to claim his belongings. When I was packing up his things, I found something in his jacket pocket." She pulled a crumpled lottery ticket from her scrub pocket. I checked the numbers. Nobody claimed it. It expired yesterday, but I called the lottery commission. They said there's a 30-day grace period for extenuating circumstances. Death qualifies. I don't understand. Check the numbers, Eleanor. Just check them. She handed me her phone, already open to the lottery website. My hands trembled as I compared the numbers on the ticket to the winning numbers from 6 weeks ago.
Match. Match. Match.
All 6 numbers. The jackpot was $2.3 million. The room started spinning. This can't be real. It's real. And nobody knows about it but you and me. Naomi took the ticket back, pressed it into my palm. "Mr. Chun has no family, no will, no estate. This ticket was found in a facility, on public property technically. It could go to the state. It could disappear. Or," she looked at me steadily, "it could help someone who needs it. Why are you doing this?" "Because I'm tired of watching good people get erased. And because you're the only one here who'd know what to do with a second chance." That night, I couldn't sleep. $2.3 million. It was impossible. It was dangerous.
It was a way out.
But how do you claim a lottery ticket when you're trapped in an assisted living facility with no phone, no internet, and no freedom? How do you disappear when your daughter controls your entire life? I needed help. Real help. The kind that came with law degrees and ethics. The next morning, I asked to use the phone to call my book club. That's what I told the desk nurse anyway. Instead, I called Legal Aid of Vermont, explained my situation in whispered fragments. They connected me with Lucas Reed, a young attorney who volunteered with their elder advocacy program. "Mrs. Brooks," he said when he arrived 2 days later, "I need you to tell me everything. And I mean everything." We met in the facility's visiting room, surrounded by other families having their supervised conversations. I told him about the birthday that wasn't, about the paperwork I'd signed under duress, about the lottery ticket burning a hole in my pocket. Lucas leaned back, processing. "Here's the legal situation. You signed those forms, but if you were coerced or not mentally competent at the time, they might not hold up. The lottery ticket is trickier. Legally, it belonged to Mr. Chin, but since he's deceased with no estate, The finder technically has a claim, especially if found on quasi-public property. Can you help me? I can. But Mrs. Brooks, if you claim that ticket, your daughter will know. She'll come after it. She'll fight you, for every penny.
Good, I said.
Let her try. Lucas smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was a warrior's smile. Then here's what we're going to do. Over the next 3 weeks, Lucas worked magic. He filed paperwork declaring me mentally competent. He arranged for an independent psychiatric evaluation. He set up a trust, an LLC, a web of legal protection. And most importantly, he helped me claim that lottery ticket under a name that wasn't Eleanor Brooks. The money hit the trust account on a Tuesday morning. $2.3 million minus taxes. Lucas showed me the balance on his laptop during one of his visits, and I stared at those numbers until they stopped meaning anything at all. What now? I asked. Now we get you out of here. Legally, quietly, completely. I left Silver Meadows at 4 in the morning on a Wednesday in November. Lucas picked me up in a rental car, and we drove through the darkness while Pine Hollow slept. I didn't look back at the building.
I didn't want to memorize it.
Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere your daughter will never think to look. Somewhere you can start over. We drove for 16 hours, stopping only for gas and coffee, until we reached a small lakeside town in North Carolina. Lucas had rented me a cottage through the trust, furnished it with basics, set up accounts that couldn't be traced back to Eleanor Brooks. On paper, I was Eleanor Martin now, a widow relocating for her health. You're going to be okay, Lucas said before he left. But Eleanor, you need to know something. When your daughter realizes you're gone, she's going to panic. She's going to file a missing person report. She's going to play the worried daughter on social media. You need to be ready for that. I know. And you can never go back. Not to Pine Hollow. Not to that life. You understand. I understand.
And I did.
I was dead to my old life. Goes to everyone who'd known me. It should have felt sad. Instead, it felt like freedom. The first month in North Carolina was strange. I'd wake up disoriented, forgetting where I was, expecting to see that brick wall outside my window. But instead, there was the lake, silver in the morning light, and trees that knew how to keep secrets. I bought a laptop, learned to use it, started following the news back home. And that's when I saw it. Marissa's Facebook post had been shared 8,000 times. There she was, my daughter, tears streaming down her face in a video that looked professionally lit. Please, if anyone has seen my mother, Eleanor Brooks, please contact me. She's 68 years old. She has dementia. She's confused and alone, and I'm so worried. She disappeared from her care facility, and I just want her home safe. The comments were everything you'd expect. Praying for you. I hope she's okay. What a devoted daughter. Someone had even started a GoFundMe for the search effort. It had raised $11,000. I watched that video 17 times. Each time, I looked for something real in her eyes. Some flicker of genuine worry or love or regret. But all I saw was performance. My daughter had always been good at performing. I dug deeper. Social media was a rabbit hole, and I fell down it hard. Marissa's Instagram was full of throwback photos of us, pictures I didn't remember her taking, captions dripping with concern. Missing my mom today. Praying she comes home. Can't sleep worrying about where she is. Please share. Please help me find her. But something bothered me about the timeline. I started screenshotting, organizing, comparing dates. 3 months before my birthday, Marissa had posted about financial stress. 2 months before, she'd mentioned family challenges. 1 month before, a cryptic post about making hard decisions for the people we love. She'd been planning this. She'd been setting the narrative. I called Lucas. I need you to investigate something. What am I looking for? I don't know yet. But my daughter doesn't put me in a home just because I forgot to turn off the stove. There's something else. Something she didn't want me to find out. Lucas called back 3 days later. His voice was tight. Eleanor, are you sitting down? Just tell me. Your daughter took out 3 loans in the last 2 years. 1 against your house. 2 personal loans using your late husband's identity and social security number. The world stopped. Richard's been dead for 3 years. I know. It's identity fraud. She forged documents, created fake accounts. Eleanor, she's been using her assets as collateral for loans she never intended to pay back. And there's more. More? She's under federal investigation. Has been for 6 months. Financial fraud. Embezzlement from her firm. They're building a case. And you, he paused. You were her escape plan. If you were declared mentally incompetent, she could claim you mismanaged the money, that you authorized the loans during a period of declining mental health. She'd walk away clean while you took the fall. I sat down. I had been sitting, but I sat down harder, like my bones couldn't hold me anymore. She was going to frame me. Yes. For crimes she committed. Yes. And the nursing home was to keep you quiet, keep you isolated, keep you from noticing the financial discrepancies until it was too late. Eleanor, if you hadn't won that lottery ticket, if you hadn't gotten out, you'd be sitting in that facility right now while federal investigators build a case against you based on your daughter's lies. I thought about that brick wall outside the window of room 214. I thought about Gladys and her 7 years of abandonment. I thought about all the ways we disappear people when they become inconvenient. What do I do? My voice came out as a whisper. We fight back. We expose her. We make sure she never does this to anyone else. But Lucas didn't understand. Fighting back meant exposing myself. It meant admitting I was alive, admitting where I was, giving up this new freedom I'd found. It meant walking back into the fire. I need time, I said. I need to think. I spent 3 days walking along the lake, watching the water change colors as the sun moved across the sky. I thought about justice and revenge, and the difference between them. I thought about my daughter, about the girl she'd been, and the woman she'd become. I thought about all the moments I'd missed the signs because I loved her too much to see them clearly. On the 4th day, I called Lucas back. Do it, I said. Expose everything. But we do it smart. We do it in a way that protects the evidence and protects me until the right moment. What's the right moment? When she thinks she's won. That's when we show her what winning actually costs. 2 weeks later, Marissa filed a petition to have me declared legally deceased. 7 years was the standard waiting period for a missing person, but she was claiming special circumstances, my age, my supposed dementia, the lack of any activity on my accounts. She wanted me officially dead, so she could inherit what was left of the estate before the federal investigation closed in. The hearing was scheduled for December 15th. Lucas flew down to North Carolina to prep me.
She's going to be there, he said.
Are you ready to see her?
No.
But I'm going to anyway. We walked into that courthouse on a cold Tuesday morning, and I felt every eye turn toward me. The bailiff did a double take. The court reporter's fingers froze on her keyboard. And Marissa. Marissa looked like she'd seen a ghost. Which I suppose she had. Mom. Her voice cracked on the word. Mom. Oh my God. Where have you been? I've been so worried. Save it. My voice came out steady, stronger than I'd heard it in months. Save it for someone who doesn't know better. The judge banged her gavel. Let's proceed with order. Mrs. Brooks, you are indeed alive. Very much so, Your Honor. Then this petition is denied. However, she looked at Marissa. I'm troubled by the circumstances described in these filings. Ms. Brooks, your mother appears quite lucid to me. Would you care to explain why you had her committed to a care facility against her will? Marissa's lawyer jumped up, all objections and procedure, but it didn't matter.
The judge saw what I saw.
The performance cracking at the edges. We moved to family court next, where I filed to revoke all the powers of attorney I'd signed. Marissa counterfiled, claiming I was mentally unfit, that I'd been manipulated, that I needed protection from myself. The psychiatric evaluation took 3 hours. Dr. Sarah Chen asked me to count backwards, remember word lists, solve puzzles, tell her my life story. At the end, she set down her pen and smiled. Mrs. Brooks, you have the cognitive function of someone 20 years younger. There is absolutely no evidence of dementia, confusion, or impaired judgment. Whoever told you otherwise was lying. In court, she said the same thing, under oath, in front of Marissa and her lawyers and the judge and God and everybody. The judge didn't even deliberate. All powers of attorney are hereby revoked. Mrs. Brooks, you have full control of your affairs. And Ms. Marissa Brooks, she looked at my daughter with something like disgust. I'm referring this case to the district attorney's office for investigation of potential elder abuse and fraud. Marissa's face went white, then red, then something beyond color, some shade of panic I'd never seen before. Outside the courthouse, she grabbed my arm. Mom, please. Let me explain. Explain what? How you were going to frame me for your crimes. How you were going to let me rot in that place while you spent my money. I was desperate. I made mistakes, but I never meant. You packed my bags without telling me. You drove me to that place on my birthday. You took my phone, my freedom, my life. And you did it all while pretending to be concerned. I pulled my arm free. I don't know you anymore. I don't think I ever did. I'm your daughter. No, I said quietly. Daughters don't do what you did. I don't know what you are, but you're not my daughter anymore. I walked away. Behind me, I heard her crying, calling my name, begging me to wait. I didn't turn around. Some bridges, once burned, should stay burned. Lucas had one more piece of evidence to show me. He pulled it up on his phone in his car, parked outside the courthouse. The federal investigation is moving forward. I received this an hour ago. It was an indictment. United States of America versus Marissa Ellen Brooks.
White fraud.
Identity theft. Elder financial abuse. 18 counts. Each one carrying up to 20 years. When? I asked. They'll arrest her tomorrow morning. They wanted to wait until after the competency hearing, make sure you couldn't be used as a scapegoat. Tomorrow morning, in less than 24 hours, my daughter would be in handcuffs. I waited for the satisfaction to come, the sense of justice served. Instead, I just felt tired. There's something else, Lucas said. The $11,000 from the GoFundMe? She kept it. All of it. Never spent a dime on actually looking for you. The feds are adding that to the charges. Of course she did. Of course. That night, back in my cottage by the lake, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Marissa as a little girl, the way she'd hold my hand crossing the street, the way she'd run to me when she skinned her knee, the way she'd say, "I love you, Mommy," before bed every single night. Where did that girl go? When did she turn into someone who could throw away her own mother like trash? Maybe she'd always been this person, and I'd been too blinded by love to see it. Or maybe something broke in her along the way, and I missed it. Either way, the result was the same. I'd lost my daughter long before she tried to erase me. The trial was fast. Marissa took a plea deal, 15 years reduced to 8 with good behavior. Her husband divorced her before the sentencing. Her friends disappeared like smoke. The social media warriors who'd shared her posts moved on to the next tragedy, the next performance of grief. I didn't attend the sentencing. Lucas went on my behalf, called me after with the details. 8 years. She'll serve at least 5. How did she look? Broken. She asked if you were there. When I said no, she just nodded. Like she expected it. 5 years. My daughter would spend 5 years in prison while I lived free in my cottage by the lake. It should have felt like victory. It felt like loss. But life, I was learning, had a way of moving forward, whether you were ready or not. I used some of the lottery money to set up a foundation, the Eleanor Brooks Elder Protection Fund. We provided legal services, advocacy, and support for seniors being financially abused by their families. We trained facility staff to recognize the signs. We created hotlines, resources, escape plans. I hired Naomi as the director. She'd quit Silver Meadows the week after I left, couldn't stomach watching more people disappear. Now she had an office, a budget, and the power to actually help. You're saving lives, she told me at our 6-month review. Do you know that? Real, actual lives. I'm just paying it forward, I said. You saved mine first. 1 year after I left Silver Meadows, I went back. Not as a resident. As a donor. I'd purchased the facility through a shell corporation, made sure the new management actually cared about the people living there. Better food, more activities, open phone access, regular independent wellness checks. Room 214 got a bigger window, one that looked out at trees instead of brick. Gladys was still there. She cried when she saw me. "I thought you died," she said. Or escaped. Wasn't sure which. Both, kind of. I sat beside her, held her hand. "Your family, the ones who haven't visited. They won't come. I've accepted it. What if I told you there's a program now? Free legal assistance for seniors who've been abandoned? What if I told you we could help you reclaim your independence, your accounts, your life?" She looked at me with those eyes that had given up hoping. And slowly, carefully, hope flickered back to life. "Would you help me?" "I already am." 6 months later, Gladys moved into a small apartment in town. She started volunteering at the library. Started painting again, something she'd given up 40 years ago. Her family never did come back, but she built a new one, piece by piece, from the people who actually showed up. That's the thing about being erased, I learned. Once you survive it, once you claw your way back to existence, you become dangerous. You become someone who knows the value of visibility, of voice, of refusing to disappear. You become someone who won't let others be erased either. I still live by the lake. I still use the name Eleanor Martin for most things. Keep my real identity quiet. Marissa writes me letters from prison sometimes. I don't open them. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I'll be ready to hear whatever she has to say. But not yet. Not while the wound is still fresh. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. Exposing her. Letting her go to prison. They think I should feel guilty for destroying my own daughter's life. But here's what they don't understand. She tried to destroy mine first. She tried to make me disappear, to silence me, to use me as a shield for her crimes. I didn't destroy her life. I just refused to let her destroy mine. There's a difference. Last month, I received a letter from a woman in Michigan. Her son had put her in a facility, taken control of her finances, isolated her from friends. She'd seen a news article about the foundation, managed to get to a phone, called her hotline. Naomi handled her case personally. 3 weeks later, the woman was free, her son was under investigation, and another person refused to be erased. That's my legacy now. Not the daughter who betrayed me. Not the birthday that wasn't. Not even the lottery ticket that saved my life. My legacy is every person who sees the foundation's work and realizes they don't have to disappear. They don't have to accept the narrative someone else writes for them. Before you judge me, remember this. They tried to write me out of my own story. They tried to make me a footnote, a cautionary tale, a confused old woman who didn't know what was good for her. But I picked up the pen. I took back the narrative. And I finished the story myself. If you found this story powerful, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment telling me what you would have done in my situation. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's being silenced or erased or dismissed, share this with them. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know there's always a way back from disappearing. My name is Eleanor Brooks. I'm 69 years old now. I live by a lake in North Carolina, and every morning I wake up and choose to exist loudly, visibly, unapologetically. Because existing, I've learned, is an act of rebellion. And I'm done being quiet. That's my story. That's how I ended up with $2 million and no daughter. That's how I learned that family isn't always who you're born to, and freedom isn't always free. But it's always, always worth fighting for. And if someone ever tries to erase you, remember, you have a pen too. Use it.